Today we have the 2018 Nissan Altima. This is not just any ordinary Altima, this is the SR trim level. That means it's a sporty variant of the Altima. It's on its last generation. As you see, the 2019 Altima is completely redesigned and all new. So we're gonna see what this 2018 model still has to offer. Let's check it out right now. Time to check out the 2018 Altima. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I post videos every week. Please be sure to check out other videos. Before I get started, I want to thank Fenton Nissan in Rockwall, Texas. They were super generous to let me show you guys this Nissan. If you're ever in the DFW area, please be sure to check them out. Starting up front here, I know it is bright and you can't pick this up very well, but this does have a smoked halogen housing for its headlights. You can get LED headlights on the midnight trim or the SL trim. I do have the hazards on so you can kind of see how that goes. We don't have the signature LED little check mark that they do have, but we do have fog lights. What do y'all think of this front end? You know, it definitely reminds me of the Maxima, the Murano. You know, they kind of have the same thing going on with all of those. So it is really bright out and it's kind of hard to tell, but this does have a really nice slick paint coat. It is very shiny, very sparkly. It's not just a boring plain white. It looks really good with the black accents in those wheels. The wheels range from 16 to 18, but on this SR we do have 18-inch wheels. You can see the accents in there. They look pretty nice. 16 will be on the base, and all the way up at the top you'll have the 18 as well as the SR models. So we don't have the turning signal in the mirror. We don't have blind spot either. The mirror turn signal is optional on the SV model and up. One cool thing about this vehicle is we get wider tires with the bigger wheels. We get 235 width tires instead of 215 width tires. Be sure to give you better traction. What do y'all think of this design from the back? I think the Altima looks just fine. I think it blends very well. You know, it still has its own unique styling. I like it. Another thing with this Altima is we have a sport tune suspension that gives us larger stabilizer bars in the front and the rear, and that is specifically for the SR model. Not to mention we get this little spoiler on the back. One thing with the SR Midnight is you'll get black accents instead, and that will help you distinguish that from this SR model. All of these Altimas now get intelligent forward collision and automatic emergency braking. In the back of the Altima, in the trunk, we can open it with the key fob inside, or there's a little button right underneath of here. Push that and it will pop up. So this unveils 15.4 cubic feet. This is pretty good size for the mid-size class. This is actually more than the Maxima will give you, if you can believe that. One thing I would like to see differently is these hinges. I'd like to see them integrated so they don't come down, possibly impeding the cargo, but you do have pull tabs on both sides to fold down those rear seats, giving you a pretty large trunk overall. Nissan gives us the same key fob you're probably familiar with, our lock, unlock, trunk, and panic button. We can option up for remote start, but we do not have it right here. So this is a smart key system right here. In order to use it, it's very easy. All you have to do is push that button, push it to lock it. Whoop, I had it locked. Anyways, you push it to lock it or unlock it, either way. Now that we're in the front seat of the Altima, these are some of the most comfortable cloth seats that I've been in a mid-size sedan. So starting out at the base S, you get 6-way manual adjustability, but here we have 8-way power, and that includes lumbar support as well. Over on the passenger side, it is only 4-way manual, even though we have 8-way power here. So that would be something nice to see over there. This steering wheel, let me tell you, so the control is down here. This thing goes in and out really far, as well as up and down. I was definitely impressed by the adjustability of this steering wheel. So more on these seats. With the base S you have cloth. With this SR we have a sport cloth, and there's actually a different variation once you move up into the different SR trims, like the special edition or the Midnight. Heated seats are optional. You have to move up in the SR trim for that. If you want leather, you got to go to the SL trim level, and there's no cooled seats on any trim as of right now. When I sit back, With this seat about midway between where it wants to be, I can put a whole fist up above my head, and we don't have a sunroof in here, so that does help with that. But overall, pretty comfortable. If you're really tall, you know, this piece down here does jut out just a little bit, so you might want to sit and make sure your knees don't bump up against that, but I have no problem at 5'9". Inside the Nissan Altima, first off on this door rest, you'll find a nice, soft, comfortable armrest. As we go up, this whole material is soft with the stitching going across. This is also soft up here. You won't really find any hard touch until you get close to the door handle right there. There's no memory seats here, but we do have an automatic driver's side window. As we go down, we do have a bottle holder and a pretty deep compartment down there. It's a pretty solid door slam overall. And if we have the key inside the vehicle, push button start, and that's a 2.5 liter starting up there. I'm going to start with this screen up above. The screen can be controlled with the buttons on the steering wheel. It's really easy to use. As you can see, we have our trip computer right here, and it shows really good miles per gallon, 33.1 over 689 miles. And I'm not sure how this car has been driven. I don't know if it's been a rental or what, but that's impressive. So you have that, and of course you can customize that. You can show what's on the radio. You can show some of your driver features, any warnings such as maintenance or anything like that. Of course, you can customize your settings. Tire pressure will appear obviously for all four wheels. And then back to our trip computer. And when you go over to your settings, you can customize, you know, things like lights, even what you see on the screen, your driver assistant stuff. Even though this isn't the most modern looking right here with the big digital display kind of overtaking everything, it's very simple and easy to use. As we move back and look at the steering wheel, this SR model gives us a leather wrapped steering wheel, and driving this, I feel like the steering wheel is actually a little bit smaller than some other ones, but that makes it really easy to handle. It's nice and compact, it's soft. You can see your controls over here. I was using these buttons right here to control the screen, and of course you can scroll through and enter with that. Source for your radio as well as your volume controls. Over to the right, we have our cruise control and our voice controls down there. And this also has Siri eyes free, so you can use your voice controls and talk through Siri, basically just like you would on your iPhone. Moving over here to the left, we have another trip computer button with the lighting controls there. Traction control in the trunk, as well as your fuel door and your hood opener down there, and the e-brake right down there. So this layout from Nissan is definitely not the most modern, but it's very functional. I think it still looks good considering this car is going to be updated just next year for 2019. Let's move over to the screen here. Well, first of all, you can see the start button right there, and it's kind of got a nice light to it as well. It's not just a plain button. This is just a 5-inch screen. Of course, you could get a 7-inch screen if you option up in trim level. This is not a touch screen. The 7-inch screen will give you the Apple CarPlay, which you can even get on the SR Special Edition, but we don't have that here. This comes with a 6-speaker system. You can get a bigger Bose speaker system, but this actually doesn't sound too bad. It's very easy to use. All of these buttons feel very solid. Very simple layout. Got your volume and your tuning knob over here. We have single zone climate control or single zone AC. You can get dual zone if you go up to the SV model, but again, everything is very simple to use. These have a nice click to them, so it's got a good tactile feel on both sides. Very simple. Going down a little bit further, we have a USB port, we have an auxiliary port, as well as a 12-volt outlet. And this bin down here is actually pretty large. I had my phone sitting down there when we came over, and it accommodates my iPhone Plus very well. Moving back to this shifter, this is the shifter for the CVT. It is leather wrapped around this side right here, and of course you can put it down into the DS mode right there, and then we'll be able to use our paddle shifters. And I really like these paddle shifters because they aren't attached to the wheel, they're actually stuck back there. So sometimes when you're in turn, it'll be a little easier for you to hit those paddles, or if you're driving with one hand, you can just reach up and click the paddle. These cup holders, these bottle holders, they don't look as big, but I took my bottle out. It sits in there just fine. It's fairly large and fairly wide. It fits in both of them as well. We have another storage compartment right back here. And when we go take a look at this center armrest, as you can see, you have the upper section and the lower section. So we click that, and this is actually a little bit deeper than you might think, you know, if you want to keep something separate from the junk down below. Open up the bottom section, and that is larger, and it gives you a 12-volt power outlet. It would be nice to see another USB port down here, but that's okay. Speaking of this armrest, this is pretty soft. You can see you got this seam on both sides right here. About standard width for what you'd expect in a sedan of this size. One thing that I really like with this Altima, and it's kind of goofy because it's just the glove box. 1, it locks. 2, it's soft opening. 3, it has multiple sections. So there's a little section here. It's really, really deep. And then you can kind of see that shelf up above. That's another shelf to keep stuff separate. So if you're getting pulled over a lot and you need your license or your registration, you can keep it up there so it's easy to get to. We do have visors. The whole visor will slide on both sides. Both sides also have a pretty large mirror with a vanity light right there. Now, we don't have the garage controls or anything like that up here, but we do have a sunglass holder as well as LED lights all around up here. So LED lights are obviously brighter than the traditional lights you will typically see. No automatic dimming rearview mirror in this trim, but of course if you option up, you can get that in the higher levels. So visibility in here, not too bad. Another thing with this car is we don't have the blind spot monitor or rear cross traffic alert. You do have to option up for that. This is the base SR model, not the base S, but the base sporty trim. It does help that there's a little window back there. That does help with that back pillar because it is fairly large. But we do have a backup camera, which I will show you right now. So backup camera shows up on the screen. It is not one with guidance lines, but it does help nonetheless. And if you want parking sonar, you will have to go all the way up to the SL trim for front and rear parking sonar. The backseat of the Altima is still pretty spacious as well for a mid-size sedan, especially with my legroom. I really do have a lot of space for my knees and my legs. The only complaint back here would be when I sit up tall, I have short hair, my hair is still just kind of grazing the roof. So you'll definitely want to check your back seat. You know, if you have taller passengers. I'm 5'9", not very tall, so worth a look. I'll show you the rest of what's back here. There is a tunnel in the middle. So when I sit here, my head touches a little bit more than it did on this outboard seat, and my feet are up pretty high because of this tunnel, but this is probably only where kids will sit anyways. Now that we're in the back seat of the Altima, you'll find pretty much the same touch materials as you do in the front. You have a soft armrest. This is fairly soft up here, just hard by the door handle. We have a pretty large bottle opener or bottle holder right there, and there's actually a little shelf right next to it. Same solid door slam. Now with me at 5'9", I have this seat where I would typically be. There's a pretty good cutout right here, as well as still a mat pocket, and I have a lot of knee space. I have a good amount of room under the seat for my feet as well. No complaints with that. One nice thing is we have 2 USB ports back here. Always nice to have for your backseat passengers. There is a pretty big tunnel right here going through, so the middle seat will probably be only for children. We do have a center folding armrest with 2 cup holders. In order to get the sunroof or rear air vents, you have to go optional on the SV, and of course you can get those on the SL trim. Supplying power to the Altimas, we have 2 powertrain options. We can get a 2.5 liter 4-cylinder, which is what we have here, or you can get a 3.5 liter V6, which is what you can get in the SL trim level. If you're going to go with the 4-cylinder, you'll get 179 horsepower and 177 pound-feet of torque, which is about medium for what the class offers and has offered over this generation. That is paired with a CVT transmission, and it does provide pretty good fuel economy numbers. On most of the 4-cylinder models, you will get 27 miles per gallon in the city, 38 miles per gallon on the highway, but if you go with the SR trim level, you will have bigger wheels, wider tires, and that will drop your fuel economy down just a bit. The 3.5 liter V6 will give you 270 horsepower and 251 pound-feet of torque. Miles per gallon for that, paired with the CVT, is 22 miles per gallon in the city and 32 on the highway. All right, we are off for the test drive in the Altima. Thanks for sticking around so far. If you liked the video up to this point, please give me a thumbs up down below. Consider subscribing as well and hit that notification bell next to it so you can see my new videos every single week. So my first impression with this Altima, just taking off from a stop back there, is it feels pretty smooth. You know, I drove it to the spot that I was filming, and It was very easy to just get into and drive. There's no thought required. Everything is right where you need it to be. Ergonomics seem to be pretty good. This front seat is definitely comfortable. You know, if you watched my Maxima video, you'll know just how much I love those Maxima seats, those zero gravity seats. Right now we're on a bit of a rougher textured road, and there is some road noise. I'm sure you can probably hear that, but it's definitely not pronounced. It's not necessarily any more than I had in some of the new vehicles like that 2018 Accord that I had. In fact, it's a little bit louder than, let's say, the Maxima, but it's definitely not bad. Let's give it a little bit of acceleration. So, not too bad. You obviously don't have the most powerful engine in here. This is the 2.5 liter. We can get the 3.5 if you really want to have some more fun. And the CVT in here does just what it's supposed to. It's fuel efficient. This is definitely a fuel efficient vehicle. As you can see, the MPG numbers that were on the screen over, the past 600 something miles. I'm off of that rougher road. I'm on a smoother road, and it's definitely nice and quiet in here. It's pretty windy outside. If you can see some of the trees blowing or the bushes blowing when I was filming earlier, it's windy, and I don't hear a peep of wind noise right now. I'm only going about 30 to 40, so that's one thing. We're about to get on a road that's definitely not known for being nice or smooth. It's got a bunch of patches. It's got some rough spots. So we're going to kind of get an idea of how this suspension is. As you know, in this SR model, we have the Sport Tune suspension. We have bigger wheels with the 18-inch wheels, and this really handles this soaks up everything just fine for an SR or for a sport suspension. I'm sure the regular S and the other non-SR models are a little bit more compliant. I'm going to be going around my first actual turn here, and it's a pretty slow turn. It's kind of sharp and it's residential. We'll get a little bit of a feel for how this steering wheel holds. That really was pretty nice, Obviously, I was only going about 30 miles an hour, but there was no guessing. The steering definitely, it's not the heaviest. It's not like a real sporty feel, but there's no guessing with it. We're about to get on a more of an open road here, so I'm gonna put the pedal down a little bit more and see how it goes. So with the CVT, so that got up to 60. I'm not sure what the 60 time is. I believe it's in the 8-second range, a little over 8 seconds. You could hear the CVT kind of mimic the shifts a little bit, which it will do that. So it'll make it kind of sound and feel a little bit more like an automatic, but you're not going to have the traditional downshift and then jerk to go acceleration. A lot of people give CVTs a hard time, and obviously if you're an enthusiast, it kind of zaps the fun out of the vehicle. But it does a good job. It's gonna, there's some pluses to it as well. Say you're going up a hill, it's gonna help you keep your RPMs better. It's not gonna struggle nearly as much as regular automatic transmission. The brakes have a really good feel to them. I don't think there's any problem coming to a stop. There's no guessing. It's not a real sharp bite, but it's not something you really got to push down into the pedal. I'm just coming up on my spot where I like to check the turning radius, and like I was saying, it's got a pretty easy to use steering wheel. It's got a pretty decent feel for what you'd expect. Let's check it out. Definitely a very good and tight turning radius. Easy effort with the steering wheel at these low speeds. It does have a little bit of weight to kind of give you a good feel, but very easy to turn. We're going to go around a little bit of a faster turn up here. It's not real sharp, but it'll give you an idea of how it handles. It's got a decent amount of pep off the line. The CVT puts you right where you need to be. This car definitely doesn't really want to be hustled, but I feel pretty well planted. There's no issue of confidence in this going around a turn like that. I was holding about 60 going around that turn. It'll be just fine. And with this Sport Tune suspension, I'm sure it's probably a noticeable difference compared to the regular suspension you'll get in the other vehicles. Now that I'm up to about 55, there is a little bit more wind noise. It's not pronounced, but I can hear a little bit. On this smooth road, I don't really hear much in terms of road noise. Definitely very quiet. So at cruising speeds, you know, I've said that these are comfortable seats. The ergonomics in here seem just fine. The armrest is soft on both sides. I have pretty good visibility. You know, I'd like to see the windshield maybe swept back a little further because I got a pretty good amount of sight of this upper portion in here, but I'm sure that's something that will be changed in the 2019 Altima. Either way, this 2018 Altima, you know, depending on what kind of options you want or what trimmings you want, you can dress it up pretty much however you want. I would like to see Apple CarPlay standard with the touchscreen on the lower trims, but not a big complaint. Gonna give it one more acceleration. So one thing I've noticed is, okay, so I put the pedal down. You can put the pedal down to what you think is down, but there's just a little click past that. And I don't know if that's something unique to this Altima or just Nissan. Now I have it in S mode for paddle shifters. And obviously this is a CVT, so I'm kind of curious to how this works with the shifting, but I'm in third gear. Got some decent pep, fourth gear, fifth gear, sixth gear. This is kind of interesting with the CVT. So I'm going to downshift a little bit. Down to fourth, RPMs kick up, give you more power. Very easy to use. Like I mentioned earlier, these paddle shifters are unique in the sense that they're not attached to the steering wheel. They're attached to the column, so they stay in place, and they're pretty large so that you can almost always have a finger on them, which is nice when you're turning, or with one hand you can just reach and click really easily. We are coming to an end with this review of the 2018 Altima. I hope I covered everything you guys want to see. If you enjoyed it, please give me a thumbs up down below. Subscribe for future videos. Check out my Nissan Maxima video if you haven't seen that yet. Overall, I like this car. It's very comfortable, it's functional, it's got some cubbies. Not much you can complain on, and obviously it's a little bit old compared to some of the new ones, but it still does well. Hey y'all, thank you so much for watching my video. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do down below for new weekly videos every single week. Also hit me up on social media. Find the links down below in the description for Prime Autotainment. Once again, leave some comments down below, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you next week.